Did you realize that fixing your blood sugar doesn't require eliminating carbohydrates entirely? Actually, the quickest method to balance your glucose levels involves adding certain foods to your diet, rather than completely banning food groups like carbs. I have witnessed this reality firsthand. I have worked with hundreds of individuals who completely transformed their glucose readings in a matter of days simply by incorporating these specific items into their daily routines. And it's not a short-term fix. They manage to maintain low sugar levels without relying on prescriptions for months or even years. Therefore, throughout this video, I will demonstrate how to utilize each of these 10 powerful foods to maximize your internal biochemistry and tackle insulin resistance at the cellular level. This way, you can reduce your blood sugar rapidly, naturally, and above all, permanently. Before we jump into the first item, I need a quick favor. If you appreciate videos that actually teach you how your body works, instead of just prescribing another pill, please subscribe to Health After 60, hit the like button, and drop a comment letting me know your morning fasting glucose number from this week. I read every comment, and your demographics and numbers directly influence the topics I dive into next. Alright, let's get started. Here is the vital information that nobody bothers to tell you during a rush 12-minute clinic visit. Elevated blood sugar nearly always begins higher up the chain with your insulin. Insulin acts as the key that opens up your cells, allowing glucose, the sugar floating in your bloodstream, to enter the cell where it is actually needed for energy. When you spend years trapped on a blood sugar roller coaster, your cells eventually refuse to open the door. Insulin keeps knocking, but the cell remains locked. This condition is known as insulin resistance. To compensate, your pancreas simply churns out more insulin, yet your blood sugar continues to rise. And the typical medical solution is a drug that shoves even more insulin into a body that is already overflowing with it. The medical industry profits when you remain a patient, not when you heal completely. That is purely business, not necessarily evil intent. There is simply no financial incentive or time during a brief appointment to educate you on how specific foods communicate with your insulin receptors. So I am going to do it right now. Every single one of these 10 foods performs one of 3 crucial functions: slowing down the absorption of incoming sugar, reducing the chronic inflammation that makes your cells ignore insulin, or reawakening your insulin receptors so your body can function as intended. You aren't required to eat all 10 by tomorrow. Just start layering them into your meals over the coming weeks. Let's look at food number 1, fenugreek seeds. These are tiny, tough, yellowish-brown seeds that you can pick up in the spice section of almost any supermarket for just a few bucks. If you skip this just because it sounds slightly foreign, you are missing out on one of the greatest blood sugar regulators available, and it costs less than your morning coffee. Here is how fenugreek operates inside your digestive tract. The seed contains a high amount of a soluble fiber known as galactomannan. When it combines with water in your gut, it expands into a dense gel that physically delays how quickly your stomach dumps carbohydrates into your intestines. A slower digestion process means glucose gently trickles into your bloodstream instead of crashing in like a tidal wave. With no massive flood of sugar, there is no spike, and your pancreas doesn't have to panic pump insulin. Additionally, fenugreek contains a specific amino acid that encourages your pancreas to secrete insulin better and assists your muscles in soaking up glucose. I've personally seen fasting blood sugar drop within a week or two using just this method alone. To prepare it, simply soak 1 teaspoon of whole seeds in a cup of water overnight. Drink the liquid and chew the softened seeds right before your morning meal. If the earthy, bitter flavor bothers you, blend them into a powder and mix half a teaspoon into some yogurt or eggs. Start with a small amount. This fiber is potent, and your digestive system needs a few days to get used to it. Food number 2 is cinnamon, and it's highly likely sitting in your kitchen right now. However, the specific type is critical, and most folks grab the wrong bottle. Standard supermarket cinnamon is the cassia variety, which contains coumarin, a compound that can stress your liver if consumed in high daily amounts. The variety you actually need is Ceylon cinnamon, frequently sold as true cinnamon. It has a milder taste, is perfectly safe for daily use, and it is exactly what I recommend people purchase. Cinnamon's magic comes from a class of polyphenols. These naturally occurring plant compounds act remarkably similar to insulin itself inside your body. They enhance your receptors' ability to grab onto glucose and prevent your stomach from emptying too rapidly after you eat. This isn't a myth. The impact is scientifically measurable. A study conducted by the USDA's Human Nutrition Program discovered that consuming less than half a teaspoon daily significantly decreased fasting glucose levels in patients with type 2 diabetes. If you ignore this, you're leaving a massive advantage sitting right on your shelf. Consume about a quarter to a half teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon every day. You can mix it into oatmeal, your morning brew, or a protein shake. The best strategy is to consume it alongside a meal containing carbs, as that is precisely when you need your insulin receptors working efficiently and your digestion slowed. Coming in at number 3 are broccoli sprouts. And please listen closely, because this is arguably the most neglected food I will mention today. I am not talking about mature broccoli florets, but the tiny, 3-day-old sprouts. If you mix the two up, you lose out on the massive benefits. Broccoli sprouts are packed with a chemical called sulforaphane, boasting roughly 50 to 100 times more of this compound than a full-grown head of broccoli. Sulforaphane accomplishes something highly unique compared to the rest of this list. It directly targets your liver and calms down its nighttime glucose production. Your liver actively produces sugar while you sleep, and when you are insulin resistant, it manufactures way too much. This is the exact reason many individuals wake up to a high fasting glucose reading they simply can't figure out. A Swedish study from Lund University in 2017 provided high-dose sulforaphane to type 2 diabetics and successfully lowered their fasting blood sugar, seeing the most dramatic results in those who struggled the most with glucose control. You can easily sprout these seeds in a glass jar on your kitchen counter for mere pennies, or grab them from the store. A small handful, about a quarter of a cup, tossed onto a sandwich or a fresh salad daily is perfect. Just remember not to cook them with intense heat, as high temperatures kill the active ingredient. Keep them raw or very lightly wilted. So far, the first 3 foods quietly manage incoming sugar or wake up insulin receptors. The subsequent 4 items are things you can seamlessly integrate into your current meals. By the way, if you know a relative or a buddy battling high sugar, share this video with them, because nobody ever sits down and explains these vital concepts to them. Moving on to number 4, the avocado. A lot of individuals avoid it because they fear the high fat and calorie content, but that misconception is a huge mistake. The fat found in avocados is predominantly monounsaturated, the exact same healthy variety found in olive oil, and it is one of the greatest things for managing blood sugar. The logic is straightforward. This beneficial fat, combined with the avocado's fiber, dramatically slows down the digestion of your whole meal. By tossing half an avocado onto your toast or rice, you aren't eliminating the carbs. Rather, you are applying the brakes to how quickly those carbs convert into glucose. Your sugar rises smoothly instead of sharply spiking. Consistently consuming monounsaturated fats also boosts insulin sensitivity over time, helping your cells respond to insulin's knock much quicker. From what I've seen, this is the simplest habit to adopt, because the avocado makes your plate significantly more satisfying, stopping you from hunting for snacks an hour later. Half of an avocado daily is a great target. Slice it over your morning eggs, spread it on whole grain bread, or mix it into a starchy salad. Wherever carbs are present, the avocado acts as a protective buffer. Number 5 is chia seeds. These speckled little seeds offer benefits way beyond their tiny size. If you've ever watched chia seeds sit in water and transform into a thick pudding, you know exactly what they do inside your stomach. Chia is an absolute powerhouse of soluble fiber. Once it hits stomach fluids, it creates that same gelatinous barrier we mentioned with fenugreek. This gel encases the carbohydrates you've just eaten, bringing their absorption rate down to a slow crawl. Sugar enters your system gradually, helping you bypass the massive spike and the subsequent crash that leaves you trembling and starving shortly after eating. Chia seeds are also packed with plant-derived omega-3 fatty acids, which help soothe the underlying chronic inflammation that fuels insulin resistance. When you extinguish that inflammation, your cells begin to hear the insulin signal once again. Just 1 or 2 tablespoons a day is all you need. You can mix it into some yogurt, stir it into a glass of lemon water, or toss it in the blender for a smoothie. Let it sit for about 10 minutes to form its gel before consuming, and always drink a good amount of water with it, because that dense fiber requires hydration to pass smoothly. Coming in at number 6 is fatty fish, specifically referencing mackerel and salmon. This one doesn't function by slowing down digestion. Instead, it addresses the core issue of why your cells stopped listening to insulin to begin with. Insulin resistance is heavily fueled by persistent, low-level inflammation. When your system remains silently inflamed for years, it physically blocks the insulin signals at the outer boundary of your cells. Salmon and mackerel are incredibly rich in EPA and DHA, two specific omega-3 fats that serve as some of the strongest natural anti-inflammatories available. They turn down the inflammatory noise, improve the health of the cell membrane, and allow the insulin receptors to function properly. People who regularly consume fatty fish 2 times a week generally maintain much smoother glucose readings and healthier blood pressure levels. Try to get 2 palm-sized portions into your weekly diet. Herring, sardines, wild salmon, and mackerel are fantastic choices. You can grill or bake them, or simply pick up the canned versions to save money. Canned sardines and mackerel are incredibly budget-friendly, while being some of the most potent items on this list. Number 7 is walnuts. Among all the tree nuts, I recommend walnuts the highest, because of their dual action on your blood vessels and your insulin response. Walnuts boast high levels of polyunsaturated fats and the same plant-based omega-3s you find in chia seeds. This healthy fat directly heals the endothelium, which is the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, a tissue that is quickly destroyed by uncontrolled blood sugar. Concurrently, the unique blend of fat, protein, and fiber in walnuts flattens out post-meal glucose spikes and actively lowers fasting insulin levels, which indicates that your pancreas is taking a much-needed rest. Eating a modest handful instead of reaching for chips or cookies transforms a massive sugar spike into a steady baseline. A serving is about a quarter cup, roughly 7 to 10 whole nuts. Make sure they are raw or simply dry roasted, entirely avoiding the honey-roasted or candied varieties. The goal is to swap out a bad snack, not eat these on top of junk food. 8th on our list is eggs. The whole egg, specifically including the yolk. For a long time, people were incorrectly advised that the yolk was dangerous, driving them toward highly processed, sugary breakfast cereals that absolutely wrecked their glucose levels. Allow me to clarify this. A whole egg is basically pure, high-quality protein and healthy fat with 0 carbs, meaning it causes almost 0 change to your blood sugar on its own. The true benefit, however, lies in what is clinically referred to as the second meal effect. Starting your morning with eggs rather than toast stabilizes your glucose not only right then, but carries that stability all the way through to your midday meal. You approach lunch with much more stable numbers and experience a smaller spike afterward. The high protein and fat content effectively eliminates those mid-morning cravings for pastries. Trading a bowl of cereal for 2 or 3 whole eggs is arguably the quickest tweak you can make to see immediate improvements in your morning numbers. 2 to 3 eggs are ideal for most individuals. Boil them in advance, scramble them up, or toss in some greens like spinach. If you top them with that avocado we discussed, you've created the ultimate blood sugar balancing breakfast. Number 9 is apple cider vinegar. If you have a glucose monitor, this is the one item where you can visibly see the results almost immediately. The primary compound here is acetic acid, and it tackles the problem from 2 angles. First, it delays the emptying of your stomach, so carbohydrates reach your blood at a slow pace. Second, it forces your muscle tissue to actively absorb glucose out of the blood to burn for energy. The clinical data is very robust. Dr. Carol Johnston from Arizona State University demonstrated that drinking a tablespoon of vinegar prior to eating carbs slashed the resulting sugar spike by roughly 20% in insulin-resistant subjects. That is the kind of result you'd expect from a pharmaceutical drug, yet it comes from a cheap bottle in your pantry. The proper way to take it is to mix exactly 1 tablespoon into a tall glass of water and drink it 10 to 15 minutes before a carb-heavy meal. You must always dilute it. Drinking straight vinegar will severely damage your throat and tooth enamel. Also, if you currently take blood sugar-lowering medications, please consult your healthcare provider first, as combining vinegar with meds can drop your levels uncomfortably fast. The 10th and final food is lentils, and this one perfectly illustrates the entire theme of this approach. Lentils are essentially a carbohydrate, yet they actively lower your blood sugar. Here is the science behind it. Lentils are constructed from resistant starch, a complex, slow-burning carb, wrapped tightly in soluble fiber and packed with robust plant protein. Because of this unique structure, the sugar trapped inside the lentil is slowly released into your system over several hours rather than all at once. They also trigger that powerful second meal effect, meaning a hearty bowl of lentil soup for lunch keeps your numbers flat well into dinner time. Substituting lentils for white potatoes or white rice just a few times a week is one of the absolute best dietary strategies to lower your A1C, which tracks your 3-month average glucose. Try to eat a half cup to a full cup of cooked lentils a few times weekly. Toss them into a cold salad with olive oil and that vinegar we just mentioned, or make a warm stew. They are highly satisfying, incredibly affordable, and stretch your grocery budget beautifully. Let me share a quick story about a woman I'll call Martha. She was 63, newly retired, and terrified because her morning glucose was hovering around 180, and she was told she needed to start a second medication. She absolutely dreaded a future of endless pill bottles, and was deeply afraid of the severe complications like vision loss and amputations that she had witnessed her own mother suffer through due to diabetes. We didn't restrict her to a zero-carb diet. Instead, we swapped her morning cereal for eggs and avocado, added a tablespoon of vinegar before large meals, substituted her white rice for lentils, replaced her afternoon cookies with raw walnuts, incorporated fatty fish twice a week, mixed cinnamon into her morning coffee, and added broccoli sprouts to her lunch. By the end of week 1, her morning numbers were already dropping. Within 3 months, with her physician's guidance, she completely stopped the second medication, and her A1C dropped out of the diabetic range. 2 years down the road, those results have stayed consistent. She didn't starve, she just ate the right functional foods, and her body handled the healing. Let's quickly summarize why these 10 foods succeed, where restrictive low-carb diets often fail. Every item on this list restores your insulin's natural function without leaving you hungry. The high-fiber foods slow the glucose wave so your pancreas stays relaxed. Chia seeds, walnuts, and fatty fish extinguish the inflammation blocking the signal. The vinegar and cinnamon actively assist your insulin receptors in grasping the sugar once more. When you repeat this process meal after meal, the stubborn cells that refuse to open their doors eventually start responding to the first knock again. That is the true definition of reversing insulin resistance at a cellular level. And once that mechanism is fixed, your body maintains a low blood sugar naturally, which is why Martha's numbers remain stable for over 2 years. Before I lay out a simple action plan for you, I must make a very strict medical disclaimer. If you are currently taking insulin injections or older medications like a sulfonylurea, incorporating these foods can crash your blood sugar rapidly, making your current prescription dose dangerously high. Please implement these changes while your doctor monitors your glucose so they can safely reduce your dosage. Never alter or stop a prescription independently. Bring this list of foods to your next checkup instead. So, here is your 5-step plan starting right now. Step 1. Tomorrow morning, throw out the toast or cereal and eat 2 to 3 whole eggs alongside half an avocado. That single change will anchor your blood sugar for the whole day. Step 2. Tonight, put a teaspoon of fenugreek seeds in water to soak and drink it first thing when you wake up. Step 3. Go purchase real Ceylon cinnamon and begin putting a 1/4 teaspoon into your coffee. Step 4. Before your heaviest carb meal tomorrow, mix 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a large glass of water and drink it 15 minutes before eating. Step 5. Commit to swapping out your white rice for lentils at least twice this week, and ensure you eat fatty fish on 2 different nights. Slowly layer these habits in over the next 14 days. You aren't restricting joy, you are simply adding a protective shield to your diet. Now, everything we discussed today successfully controls your blood sugar during daytime hours and after you eat. But a massive number of folks experience a very frustrating phenomenon where their absolute highest glucose reading happens first thing in the morning, before taking a single bite of food. You haven't eaten all night, yet your sugar spiked anyway. There is a very specific biological reason your liver pumps out sugar while you sleep, and there are proven methods to shut that process down. I have recorded a detailed video explaining exactly what is occurring overnight and how you can wake up to perfectly normal numbers. I will place that video right here on the screen. Go click and watch that one next, and I'll see you over there.